And so I began to search for, what it was. So I let all that go, and I got this job. I almost said a little job, but it wasn't a little job. Selling paint and wallpaper. Now here I am, been around the world,
Right.
working at this paint and wallpaper shop. But during that time, it was like God was isolating me to where I had time. I could read the Bible on my break and stuff like that, and I began to grow, and hear things, and that that trek led to Breath of Life. Because as I was seeking God, Pastor Harvey had a broadcast on the radio that would come on every morning and every evening, and I just started bumping into him and just listening to the Word of God from him and people like Kenneth Copeland and Kenneth Hagin, and I began to just seek out what was this hunger, just trying to satisfy this hunger. And so, as I grew, God began to connect me with people to help me grow,
Right.
and that's how I ended up at Breath. And when I showed up, um, I actually called the church just to talk to somebody about God was dealing with me, and I didn't know what to do about it. And that's how I connected with Pastor Holloway. So,
And okay, my bad.
no, no,
I
go
didn't
on.
mean to
No,
cut
no,
you
go
off.
on.
Now, I like to kind of get, like the details. Just looking at in a relationship. Obviously, I've been married almost 10 years, but you leaving, pulling back from, what could have been a potential lucrative, you know what I'm saying, industry. Now you want to pursue this, like, was the wife in support of that as well? Because like I said, I know that piece matters as well. It's like,
It does.
you know what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah,
mean, you cannot have it, but then it will make it hard because it's like, babe, like, you could be doing this,
right,
making this
right.
money, we probably start a family or whatever like that. But then you working at a paint, what you say, a
Paint and wallpaper
paint
shop.
and wallpaper shop.
Now
It can be different.
it can be. Now that was before I got married. Now after uh, when I first came to Breath, when Stacey and I first got married, um, she wanted to be in music with me, so we were in it together. Um, and so we said, okay, we wanted to do music that that's not like the traditional music that we're hearing on the radio. So let's just start writing our own songs and see what God does. And so we would pray and study the Word of God, and God began to put songs together. So God opened up this opportunity with this guy who had a studio, and I was trying to pay him money and like limp along like that. And after a while, he was so enamored with the music until he said, "You know what, man? I'm not going to charge you anything. You can just come in and just work." So we had a home. So we started cutting and ended up taking a tape to this music attorney in Nashville. We drove up there, and he said, "I can get you about $250,000, deal."
Mm.
And so that we were kind of starting down that track, but then like the church began to grow and take off,
Yep.
and we sensed that God was saying, "I want you to stay here and work." Well, as a matter of fact, we were going on a trip to Houston, Texas, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was driving, and I was driving past all of his car. Would you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was asleep on my right side, and it was like the Lord said, "I want you to stay with this man and help him build this ministry." Now, I'm thinking $250,000 deal, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a house in
Yeah.
the suburbs, and like 2 cars, and like we only had one child at the time, Maddie. But when he said that, so I went back, and to your point, I talked to my wife, and I said, I think this is what God was saying to me. I said, I'm not with this. She said, whatever God says to you, I'm with you. That's the kind of woman she was. So I mean, she was amazing.
That's yeah.
She wasn't just a good wife. She was one of the best people I've ever known.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so just that
Yeah.
little part right there, just make sure, I know y'all be doing the editing, but like make sure that clip right there be one of the ones that we post, on a thing. Because I was actually having a conversation with somebody today, but it was like what you just said right there. That's what a lot of people in this generation missing.
Yep.
Because now it's like, oh well, no, you gotta get my permission, or but if you're my partner, if you're with me, if you're riding with me, you know what I'm saying, and you say, hey, this is the direction, like what she said, hey, if that's what it is, let's go.
I'm right, and like
I mean,
when you have that kind of support,
She got to trust a God in you too.
she has to trust.
She got to trust
in
that you trying to hear from God and doing what you got to do. So,
and I think what that does for men who are married, that frees you up to do things with all of your might. You know, you don't feel like I got to pull this end together and like try to bridge this gap because I'm not really sure what she's going to think, or I don't want to make her angry. We want things to be safe in the home, and I've heard all those things, but like that's how we roll, and if she needed something, I was the same way, like hey baby, like if like you don't want to work right now, you don't have to work right now. I'll handle it. If you need to come home and chill, because I remember she was working, and at that point we probably had maybe 2 or 3 children at that time, and I could see the job getting heavier on her. I said, listen, just come home and chill. So she came home. She had time to spend with the children. She was a whole different person, Yeah. I said, listen, our work, you don't ever have to feel like you gotta be tied to a job or anything like that. If you need to get away. So she did that until she got the hunger to go back again, because she was a people person. She was a concierge, and so when I saw her just kind of wanting to go back, I said,
right,
do your thing.
Yeah.
And but you had to be for one another, and that frees both of you up to soar, and then to be who you should be to your family and to other people. So I learned that. So
right, that's a gem by itself. Because like I said, it'll be 10 years for me and Rachel, I think, in June.
Yeah, you don't need to think, you need to know. Like, that's something you got to know that.
You know what I mean? So just, like, and even marriage is a process. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, and I wanted to know that, because it's like that matters as far as being on the same page. And because, like you said, you can be like, if it was a tension there, you could have been like, well, God telling me to do this, and then she can pull in the other way, and then it just wouldn't be in one accord, and so things wouldn't necessarily go right. And so that's a good gem right there.
No, and that's important, and I don't want to get in trouble. But they've said this is the only reason why I'm gonna repeat it. But no, like with my mom and dad, like my dad was called to be in full-time ministry, and so and that's why I was telling you. You know what I'm saying, when we were talking the last episode that we did, like that was what the Lord was telling him to do. Like the same God that that healed my heart when the doctor said I needed surgery, he did that, and he's like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, and my mom was like, no, you need to be at home.
Yeah.
And so my dad was at home, so he did that, and it wasn't until I want to say they had been married maybe like 35 years at that point, where my mom finally was like, you know what, you remember when you should have did that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now, don't get me wrong, and going back to your point, my dad was like, okay, I'm with you, so if this is what you want, I'm going to do this. And he prayed and asked God for favor during that time. But in hindsight, it's one of those things where they look to each other and it's like, you know what, I should have, I was wrong in this. You should have been doing that, because it's certain things that you would have had, certain positions you would have been in had you gone and done what you were supposed to do. And so even though, he still in some ways was always around ministry, and he helped build a lot of churches and stuff like that, what he was supposed to be doing, like he was kind of off base.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was almost like a 20-year thing. You know what I'm saying? Where he was almost like 20 years where he was off, because, and it goes back to what you were saying, like people having to trust the God in you. And even my mom will say, like, she just got so caught up in society you looking at bills and you looking at all this other stuff and you looking at other people and your coworkers and your
hard,
neighbors, and it's like, if that's what you stuck on, sometimes you can lose sight. And like you know my folks deep. Everybody will say, oh, they like two of the most righteous people that we know. But if you even somebody who's walking the line can you can kind of miss it if you get sidetracked by what everybody's doing. And so it has to be that confidence in that person.
On everything, right?
Yeah, and that's good because I think that's what you explained and what y'all were going through, you and Miss Stacy. Like that was not the norm that I've heard in different marriages, or what I've experienced, or what I've heard other stories people tell. And I think that is, I think that's major and that's key. And then looking at how y'all flowed and having the kids and kind of what y'all doing now. And so moving into that, like you and Miss Stacy got married, and so y'all got 5 kids.
5 girls.
5 girls at that. And so
boy never came.
The one question I've always asked, I'm like, how did you deal with 6 women in the house? Then I heard y'all dog was female too, wasn't it?
2 female dogs.
2 what
And not go crazy.
Right.
Yeah, and how did you do that and not go crazy?
Man.
They're some of the best women, and I'm not saying this because they were mine, but they were just great ladies. I think the girls caught her spirit.
Okay.
And they watched how we flowed, and they learned from that. They're very strong-minded women. They know how to speak their mind. They know how to stand up when they need to, but they also know, how to work with you.
Yeah.
And of course, men and women are different, and
For sure.
there have been times in family meetings where I had to sit them down and say, "Listen, guys, like men think differently than women, and where you may be feeling this, and I'm making the decision, but I'm looking at it this way because that's just how guys think,
Yeah.
So there were a lot of those kinds of conversations in the teaching and the shaping of the way that they learned to think. So it wasn't without conversation or even without challenges at times, but
I already know.
But they locked in, when they saw what we were working, that was incentive for them, I think, to lock into it. And so,
because I was like, man.
Well, I mean, and it's
and
crazy
then God
because
gives
watching
grace,
them,
The grace.
Yeah,
You
like
anoint
I
them for
never
that.
saw you raise your voice. Like it was just kind of one of those, all right, we gone, and everybody aligned.
Yeah.
They had you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You never had to give them the look. You
it's
just
a different way of
would say,
leadership, right?
Hey,
Right.
we out, or hey, stop doing that, and they, we can't do this no more.
Right.
And so it's crazy because you see that, and I mean, I don't know, I don't know the way, because I haven't seen every little instance, I seen sometimes, I know when you change the tone, they kind of look up, but
I got the Prentice Brown in me.
man, that teenager boy, she saw me, boy, I tell because it's kind of, I guess, when you spend the majority of time where you don't have that. So now when I'm saying it, it's I'm the opposition, I'm the op. You telling me to do something, and so it's and I'm looking at my example, because I had an example of somebody with daughters, and it's you don't have, so I'm okay, I don't want to have to raise my voice, but it's you act like you can whoop me or something, you know what I'm saying? That's
It's different, man.
Yeah.
Just even from the outside looking in, man, it looked like you and your whole family, you was operating, you was anointed to be where you was at and what you were doing with the women, with the kids, and all that stuff going. Because, like he said, I wasn't obviously in the house or anything like that, but we were around y'all a lot, and so you pretty much did everything that I saw with grace. You know what I mean?
I think God graces you to, we came into this marriage with no children, and then we had one Then we had 2, then 3, and I'm, at one point I was like, where does these people come from? Like I mean, when it was just me. But for each child, I learned this: that God gives grace to handle whatever size family that He gives you. Now that being said, there's a certain amount of wisdom because you have to support them, and then you have to do all those other things. So those things kick in at some point too, and I might have missed it in some of those areas. Well, not missed it, but I had to learn.
Yeah,
I had to catch up to
process. Yeah.
to what He was doing, but the grace was there to do it. And like how to bring us together and how to have fun with them and how to discipline because all of the personalities were different. I could be talking to one like I'm talking now, and like tears would just start to roll. She was just that sensitive. That was let me see, that was Hannah. She was the youngest. But like I could talk to another one, and she would just stand her ground. And I was okay. But God would show me how to handle all the different personalities. So all the wisdom comes from Him. So
yeah, that's all I need. All the wisdom.
Yeah.
I got 4 of them, so it's
and all of them are different, right?
All
right.
of them are different,
and then you don't want to destroy the bent that's in them.
Right.
You want to build on it. Like I have a grandson now. Praise God for that. And
finally got a boy in the family.
Finally got a guy. Finally got some help from heaven.
Yeah.
And so this little guy, he's determined to do everything. So like what his parents and I are learning to do is not to say put that down, stop, but like allow him to grow, but just sort of like channel that energy and that desire and that aggressiveness in the right area because it's there for a reason, and so it's the next generation,
Yeah. So with how you grew up, within the church and all that stuff, and so now you have your family of your own, and so now, did you kind of want to bring them up in a similar way, or kind of pick up where you left off as far as from learning, as far as from the music industry, going into different lanes, you know what I'm saying, and still keeping that, salvation, whatever, strapped down, you know what I mean? Because now, we talked about it with a couple people, with Black and a couple others, it's just like, in this generation, I think, especially in the church, it's more kind of nuanced now. It's like, maybe I thought back then, like, okay, you can't go out and do this and make money and do that, you know what I'm saying? It's way more, it's not frowned upon like it was 25, 30 years ago.
Right.
And
Very
so
different. Right.
did you, intentionally groom, your family or your girls to, in that way, or was it just kind of organic?
Well, it was kind of organic, pretty much like it was with me. It was just a different generation, a different time. They were around music all the time, and so at first I didn't really want them to get into music because they were young ladies, and if I can say this and be understood the right way, women are the sport of that industry. Mm-hmm. They really are.
That's true.
And that's why they're used in a way to attract men.
Right. They're over-sexualized.
They're over-sexualized, right.
To sell records, but then even to get on the radio or to get a beat in a lot of cases, or to get signed in a lot of cases. Like a lot of, if you were to hear the horror stories, because I joke about it would be like, I had somebody proposition me, you know what I'm saying? And like, I'm not a chick, but they wanted to proposition me. So I know if they're trying to proposition me, imagine if I was a woman, trying to get a record deal. And,
yeah, it happens all the time. And I think it's worse now than it's ever been, because it's a lot of witchcraft and like a whole lot of other things involved in it. But I didn't want to vicariously live my life through them. So I kind of watched it for a minute, and I said, okay, if you want to do this, let's do it right, And so at that point, started training them. I think Maddie did her first studio session, stacking vocals. She might have been maybe 12 years old or something like that. And that's when I knew she could hear, and then I said, oh, okay, so she has the ability to hear and arrange and that sort of thing. And Jesse came along right behind her, and so it started with the three. Jackson was the older three at first,
Right.
and so they started to have ideas of their own and how they wanted to sound, and I watched how they rehearsed, and I just sort of laid back and just kind of oversaw it. And then the younger two, they were chomping at the bits, like, hey, when can we get into the group? Can we get into
Yeah.
And then they got, well, they don't want us in the group. I said, no, it's not that. You guys are not old enough yet. So when they got old enough, and we kind of brought them in, and then I saw it was like that. It was five. The five became a power punch. And but they really organically just began to develop the gifts that they had. And then once they started singing, I would always have a keyboard around the house, and then they started fooling around with the keyboards, and then they started sequencing, and then it started, so now all of them are producers in some kind of way.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say because like they all like play something like guitars and stuff. I'm like, y'all get it in.
yeah,
So, like, I feel like, and Black said this, I think that a lot of people that even at Breath didn't know where you came from.
yeah.
I feel like had that been said, because that kind of breaks down that stigma of, because you had somebody and you asked me, like, do I think I would have been able to handle fame and being out there?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Vic remembers, but like it was a time like we were on stage with the Clips and Pastor Troy, and I was still celibate. I was still, people looked at me as a square, and again I'm like, dude, if I was acting like you, right? Yeah, Passion to Christ Rochet, you wouldn't be able to kick it with me if I was doing the same thing you doing. But I was out there and I was able to do it in the same way, But it's like people didn't really know, like you don't know, like I sit in circles with these people. Like how he sat in circles with these people and didn't compromise, but they respected my gift. And had they heard that from you, I think that would have kind of broke down the walls to where now.
You mean hearing the story?
No, hearing it, like it's
okay.
not like this ain't somebody who just been playing in churches
Right.
all the time, and that's all he did.
I
like
agree.
he's been around the
I
world,
agree.
and then some of these people that we're bringing. And he probably not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Some of the people that we bring in from these big celebrities can't hold a candle.
Yeah.
And like, let's just call it what it is. Now, again, he's not going to say it, but you played a competitive sport.
Right.
You know who you better than.
For sure.
At this point in your life, you may not say it, but when you play tennis who you got, receipts for. Vic can attest to this, like we was out there, And so then you got somebody like, Drew, who was out there with these guys, did not compromise, didn't give it up. But again, the stigma was, if you're in this industry, if you're on this side of it, you can't do it. And so it kind of was a thing of like whether you singing or what we was doing was rapping, like at a certain point, you get to a place of like, okay, you need to do something else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so so for now, if I'm singing and it's not an arena for me in the church, well, what is my natural progression?
Right.
I'm finna start singing on the corners, Bill with the hat down, and people throwing money. I'm finna start singing in the bars and the lounges. With us, like, what's the natural progression? Because again, for me, like I was doing secular anyway first before, but it's like I'm in church and you telling me I can't talk about what's going on in the news with the government or the politics, because that's not. That goes beyond the four walls of the church. So it's like, I still want to talk about this stuff. But again, I got an example of somebody. And even with me knowing him, like some of this stuff, I didn't find out until
Later on.
I'm good and grown. I'm like, oh, wait, you was down at Stacks and you was working with this person and this person. And
Right.
you did stuff. And like, again, like with me, like, my mom's first cousins is Maurice and Verdine from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
That's in my DNA, but it wasn't, something that was pushed, but it's like, but I had an example of somebody who was able to still do that and be who he was without compromising.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think,
and I think, do you think you would have been able, had you been in a situation, because you asked this to me, Had you been in a situation based on what you know and what you did, where you would have been elevated in that industry, had you gotten the release to take that $250,000 deal, do you think that you would have been able to still be who you were to do your music, but still maintain that standard and that walk that you had, or do you think that you might have gotten swallowed up?
No, like you're always going to have to make choices, and the further into it you go, like the greater choices have to make. I know. To your point, Stacey and I signed to a local record label here, and we actually had Sony wanted to pick us up, and so they said we loved them. Like they gave all of us a budget. That they signed maybe about 5 artists in Memphis. So we picked out our studios. I know it's a roundabout way back, but we picked out our studios because we were doing Christian music. They made us the last one, like they never came to see what I was doing or anything. And so I just put my team together and I was just producing the music. And so when Sony finally came to see what we were doing, we were recording at a studio called Kiva, which turned to be House of Blues. And they came and we were mixing, and when they put it up, they were looking, and I just sit back against the wall, and I saw their mouths drop, and they were pointing and said, "Is that?" And so like the A&R girl put me in the hallway. She said, "Call Stacy, and tell her to get ready. Y'all going to New York day after tomorrow to take pictures." And so they were ready to sign us, but like I think that inside of the calling, wherever you go, there is still the calling to follow God wherever He's placing you. If your heart is to do that, you can be like top of the world class, and still walk the line, and still be who you are, and still share with people. I know people in this industry, and there are just certain things they want to do. I know people in the movie industry, and they edit their contract. No, I'm not going to be kissing on nobody or like doing this and that. So it's work, but it can be done, because their heart is to be a witness in this industry. Just like if and this just may be the way I believe, but like if you're in business, if you're in corporate America, I think it works the same way. People look at that, well, it's just a job, it's just an 8 to 5, but it's an arena of the world stage to where you work. It's your world. And so like wherever our world is, and whatever level God graces us to be in that world, we have the ability, I believe, to share and to be a light and to be salt in that area and at that time. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no.
So
because I'm with Rag on that, because a lot of the stuff that you said on here, like, I didn't know. I think that would have been a lot of good information to know, at least, you know what I'm saying, being from the church we're from Birth of Life to where it's like, because it's not just, okay, this is just a dude that's playing the piano.
Right. Oh, he's only here just because he's a minister of music. You're
right.
Like, no, this dude,
he has a past, and he has, a story and experience, I think, that would inspire.
This man was in Japan for 5 months. Most of these niggas ain't never been outside of Atlanta, New Orleans, somewhere in Texas, California, and Mexico on some cruise. That's the extent of their travel, but you a world traveler. No, you just been to the same places everybody else go on spring break. This man was real live, overseas, passport stamped.
Yep. Right.
But you looking at him like, don't play with him.
Now, maybe I missed it or something, but have you ever said that your experience or that testimony in front of the congregation or the church or something like that?
I don't think I ever have. It's funny because I was there to assist in that vision.
Right.
And so I remember when I first started producing, me and Stacy, it was like I sense that God was saying, don't ever use this for a platform to launch your stuff, because at that time it's hard to believe right now, but like everybody was doing that with churches.
Yeah.
If you could release your music at church, you had a built-in audience, and you could sell I don't know how many, depending on the size of your congregation, and if they were connected with other congregations, you could
Y'all
do
do
all
a
right.
program or
Right.
something, then you bringing in
Right.
all of these people and you sell it up.
Right, and you know, people, they were going to the studio and like making their cassettes and CDs, and they were selling them. They were making a killing during that time.
Right.
You know, and when I
And I was gonna say, cause like when y'all had the chorale and stuff, like the chorale real life could have released like,
yeah, you know,
cause you know Mr. Terrell used to sing with Orlando Draper.
right, he did.
And Associates, he
right.
was one of like the leads with Orlando Draper and the Associates. So it's like he had people in the
Right.
corral that like could blow, like Miss Jackie, you know, Will's mom. Like he had people that could blow.
You know.
They could have put out work.
So you're saying that was wrong for you, what you felt. You know what I'm saying? Holy Spirit telling you.
I didn't get the release to use the congregation as a platform for lucrative ventures.
I got you.
And I didn't really want to do that either. But I really felt led not to do that. You know, I always felt like if I'm gonna make money doing music, then I want to do it on my own. Over, you know, here not use the congregation to like do that. Now, there's a fine line again, because people want to bless you and do this and that. And that. So like, there were cases when, you know, people would just want to give into what we were doing. That's different. But to say, hear my stuff come by, like it's the hardest thing going, I just didn't feel to do it like that. I wouldn't have to do it that way.
Well, I mean, and see, did like, and I guess me and Black was talking about this. Like, I guess where we had, and I don't know, you may be able to better say it. Like, but I'm pretty sure that when Doc went to places, like, you might have went to play a song before, you know, he got up to go speak.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right. But like, so like when people from California would come, you had for the team ministry, you had a rap group that came.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When the people from Atlanta would come, you had a group that came.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so like kind of where we were is like, okay, we're good to do a New Year's thing. We're good to do church celebration, anniversary, you know, type situation over the summer, vacation Bible school. We're good for that. But then like when y'all go to all these different places, you know, whether it's Texas, whether it's Georgia, California, up north, like y'all going to different places, and these places have, you know, youth ministries or whatever. You know, like we don't necessarily need you to say we selling a CD. Just let us go and make the connection. You know, like we make that connection. They're gonna want to bring us back. Like we don't, but it partners, because again, people gonna ask, well, where do y'all? Well, man, y'all know the word. Where do y'all go to church at? One hand wash the other, both wash the face. I'm not trying to necessarily be blowing up, but like to a lot of people, I ain't had no problem being gospel. Label me, nigga. I'm gospel. It is what it is. I ain't had no problem with that, because even being gospel, I won the roll call doing gospel. And again, I'm sorry, Stan Bill. Y'all, if y'all saw the episode, y'all know what I'm talking about. But like, I won the roll call being gospel. I didn't have a problem being gospel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, to that point, like, I think the disconnect was what you did. It was deemed as valuable. But I don't think that people, they would have had a lot more respect, not just for you, but also for the other stuff, because it's like, oh, this is not just somebody who's just, you know, a church boy. Like, this guy could be, you know, out there real life. Like, this guy was out there real life doing that. You know, and I think that even the lack of respect that you got, because I think that people got too comfortable. Yep. You know, they seeing you every week. You know, you just the minister of music. And again, look, you ain't got to say it. Mr. Andrews not saying it. It's me. Y'all know I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. Y'all
What's that for you?
Right.
Again.
Well, I think too, like you know, platforms in churches at that time played a huge factor in exposure. You know, and during that time, most people like did work at their own church. Now, you had people like that who became artists, and then they would do what you said. They would go to this church and like sing. As a matter of fact, that's how Helen Baylor
Right.
got to Breath of Life. Like we heard her out in L.A. And then we she came here, and of course we eventually developed that relationship with her as we did other artists. But like us making that kind of connection, because like I don't know, when I think about it at its height at Breath, I know, let me see, we had three choirs with the youth group. We had the chorale, we had a men's group, we had a solo ministry, we had
That's what I'm saying. It was exaltation and praise too. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
That was
right.
the two youth
So
choirs,
like,
right.
there was a lot going on. Like the church was growing, so there was a lot to do. Even on my plate, I saw and wanted to expand, like to do different things, but it took budget, it took connections,
Right.
it took, like if you're going to travel, it took money. And I know the chorale did go to California like a couple of times, and we were able like to do that. But we weren't a church that traveled a lot.
Right.
And so our assignment was mostly like to teach and preach holiness, and
Right.
And to develop, people here in this area. Now, Pastor moved about, but he didn't really take an entourage with him,
Right.
like a lot of ministers did. So when you speak about people going about and connecting, that was a part of that connection at that time. People followed pastors that did that, but all pastors didn't do that.
Right.
So our assignment, I think, was a little different. But that being said, platforms make a big difference in your exposure. Like you got to have a platform to do it. And after a while, people started to realize that and started to connect more. And it reached a certain point, and then all of a sudden, it just sort of broke off and just hit the bottom, because churches became promoters.
Yeah.
And there was one time where it was a really lucrative venture, like to do the church circuit, because people were giving more. There was more finances in circulation, but like things change, and so when the bottom started to fall out, and like people were moving about, going to other churches and changing churches and congregations, and people were downsizing, and then people began to like people that had the same drive that you had, they began to look at areas like, okay, well, like maybe I can go on the road with this artist, or maybe I can do this, and so
Yeah.
they had to look at other ways to
Right.
to compensate, or to explore, or scratch the itch that they were having,
Right.
and so that's how they chose to do it in many cases, not in all.
I mean, I think if you don't use it though, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah,
I think
right.
that was kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
Because you probably remember, and again, like we had this conversation when Black was on here and when Pastor Harris was on here, but like at one point, like you see it and it's a beautiful thing. Like we're almost overrun with talent from the musical standpoint.
Right.
We're overrun with the next wave of like, this
was
is your
everywhere.
next person over prison ministry. This is
Right.
your next person over outreach. This is the next person, to deal with a marriage. Like you got all of these people, but it's like, if I don't have nothing to do, and like you said, I gotta do something.
Yeah, the platform is.
You know what I'm saying? And again, it ain't necessarily, people ain't necessarily looking for a title as much as they're just looking for a release, more of a like just release me to do that. Just
Yeah.
give me permission to do, like, let me release the hand. Let me go and do that. But if you don't give it to me, then I'm not necessarily looking for the title. I just want to be able to use my gift, this thing that I got inside me that's burning up, and it's a path, like I gotta do it. And so I'm gonna go somewhere else and do it. And so just like at one point we were overran, and it's like we just stockpiling it. We just saving it for a rainy day. Eventually what happened is that bag bursts open, and everything
Right.
as we piling it in, it's just going out
Yeah.
and going to other places.
In all areas, like it was it's just a normal flow of things, like I said, at our height, and not just us, but like different churches, like there were, I remember people, becoming upset because they can be in only, like they were only allowed to do maybe two or
Right.
three things,
Yeah.
and they wanted to do five. So that was the kind of energy and the kind of drive that,
Right,
that
that
people
people
had.
had.
But after a while, things pan out if it isn't anywhere to go. And at that time, there weren't a lot of ministries here that had what we had. I mean, like we did the first men's fellowship, first women's
Right.
fellowship,
Right.
and like there were a lot of new things, and so everybody was experiencing and looking for wanting to participate in
Yeah.
in those areas. So
Because
yeah,
I tell Rag and even off key a lot of times, like a lot of the guests that we even had on the show were from where we're from, from
Right.
like honestly, even talking to you and talking to other people, even on the show, like interviewing them, like I didn't know, like I knew the talent and the resources that was had at it. It's like at the height of it, I thought that our home church could have been like on a mega other level. Not only just show me like here we go, but so many talented people like yourself or with Rag or with ministers or preachers that what I'm saying that never got to do what they needed to do. You know what I'm saying? And
He's
so
not making this up. When I was in seminary at Memphis Bible Institute, which was housed inside of Christ the Rock, our curriculum that we had for children's ministry was based off of the children's church that Breath of Life started.
yeah.
Like,
There were a lot of
Christ
firsts.
the Rock, yeah,
Right,
they
yeah,
learned their
yeah.
children's ministry from, and then our college curriculum was based off of that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And shout out to our leader, because like he was on like the cutting edge, and then he was the point man for like a lot of things at that time too. So like he didn't micromanage. So you felt air under your wings to do things, and he never came in like, why are you doing this or why are you doing this? But he would his approach was, is there a reason that you do it like this, which I love that about him, because there was a certain level of respect for like what you did in your area. But like as the weight of ministry grows, then you have to expand, and maintaining while you expand is easier said than done, in any area. And so like it had to morph and to change and to grow and still maintain. So like there are some wins and there are some losses in doing that.
Yeah. Now, before we break down here, I just want to ask you because you're the maestro. You're like the music guy. You know what I mean? It's like, and I
The
want
city is full of them.
Huh?
The city is full of them. Bro.
Yeah, no, that we
Some
got
great people in the city.
we got to give you a good language. You know what I'm saying? People say, "Fly," we got to give you some good language because you're that guy, man. I know to me and know to Rag, and you know what I mean. But
Appreciate
I'm
it.
just interested to like your top 5 singers, like it could be R&B or gospel, whatever. Like I'm interested of like your taste or your style, just however you want to do it. It could be gospel, it could be R&B, just
Top 5 singers.
singers.
Okay. Wow.
You ain't got to be in order. You don't have to be unless you want to.
Okay. Wow. And there's a reason that top 5, man. There's so many. Okay. Let me do it like this. Aretha Franklin.
That's a good one.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to get some gospel people in there. But,
Yeah. However you want to do it.
J. Moss.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
J. Moss.
of course, the Clark sisters. Let's see. Aretha Franklin, J. Moss, Clark sisters. There's a young, I'm not sure if y'all familiar with Kevin Ross.
I'm not.
Long Song Away, you know.
Okay.
But like,
Okay.
he's an amazing singer, you know, like good friend too. And let's see, 5. Man, 5 is not fair, man. You know,
I know it's a lot, but you know, you the maestro, so I know
I
you
want
got.
to say, you know, Prince and Michael, of course. And
Right,
Whitney,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like there are just so many.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about Al Green earlier.
Al,
Like,
of course, you know, like 5 is hard to do, you know, but because all of them contributed in some way to all of what I do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I know Aretha. She taught me like how to feel a song. You know?
Right.
I was just a kid, but I was like, why does this song feel like this?
Right.
You know, like, and like the way that they played, the way she played, and the way she sung it. You know,
The epitome of like expressing emotion and making the people,
right.
the listener, feel the emotion.
Right,
of a
right.
song.
You know, and there were like Christian artists at the same time that were doing that. I know like you had the Caravans back in the day, and of course you got Al. You had guys like Rance Allen, who yeah,
Rance
like,
Allen.
Yeah, Rance Allen.
we
yeah.
did a record together.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Word.
called.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
this is started with
No.
that.
It's called Frontline. It's on Spotify.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I wrote Frontline for him, and you know, amazing singer. Now people just know him in the latter years as a singer. You know, like how we would do it.
Yeah.
But this guy, he could play. He was an arranger. You're talking about contemporary when contemporary wasn't contemporary. Rance Allen and
Daryl Coley was my
aunt's
guy.
group. Daryl, man.
Daryl Coley was like that.
Amazing. You know, like just
And Commission is the greatest group of all time.
Commission.
Commission.
Winans,
I said what I
you know,
said.
The Winans, yeah. You know,
To me,
Commission is-
to me, Marvin Winans is so underrated.
No,
Yeah.
the Winans, but
Yeah.
the Commission
His
came
voice.
from the Winans though,
Huh?
because
well,
yeah,
Jay Moss
but see,
right,
Fred Hammond used to play. He played bass
for the Winans.
The Winans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when you look at Commission, you get Fred Hammond from Commission.
Right.
You get Marvin Sapp from Commission.
Right.
A lot of people are not familiar with Keith Staten, but he does a lot of stuff with choirs now. You get
Right.
him from Commission.
Right.
Like
had a super
Montreal Direct, you get from Commission.
Right.
You know, like Men of Standards was like they little brother. You know what I'm saying? Like so when you look at Commission, like to me, the epitome, like go listen to Ordinary Just Won't Do album.
Right.
And tell me.
Then you had Out of Eden, you know,
Yeah.
like who were a different genre of Christian music altogether.
Yeah.
I don't think Nashville knew what to do with them as
Right.
an artist, you know. But like, man, those girls, they were like
Awesome.
they inspired Jackson. Like when
Right.
you see Jackson Avenue,
Yeah.
that's where they got the inspiration from, you know. And then you had what was the other girl group that they had?
Trinity
5-7, and then there was another one. What's it?
Got to open up for both of those groups, by the way.
Yeah, those girls
Yeah.
were cold.
Oh, yeah, no.
You know, like
Oh, we was in love with Out of Eden.
Yeah.
Like we thought we
Yeah.
thought we was gonna marry one Out of Eden. We was delusional.
Yes.
But we thought, you know what I'm saying? Like, because they would just, you know, they would come and it's just like,
yeah,
but yeah,
we brought them twice. You know,
Really?
you took the breath. You know, they were amazing. You know,
That's dope. So speaking of the Jackson Avenue, is anything, you know, I think you're still involved with that, right?
oh yeah, we're kind of bringing, yeah, I can say this, like a new management in to assist what I'm doing because I want to kind of move into movies and television more. Yeah, they just released a video, and
Dope video,
it's more of
man.
a collective now because like they're all still arranging, and Jesse's a producer, she's a DJ too,
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
so,
so like it's you know, Hannah is out in LA and she's producing and writing, and of course Mo is at the house, and like, you know, Chris, I was gonna wear one of her hats, but she's starting a company called Revival Studios of you know, Christian apparel, but it's at another level that I haven't seen it, and I was gonna wear the hat, but I had to change what I was gonna wear tonight. But
Go ahead, Chris.
so they're they're still coming back together and like working musically, and we're expanding it now. It's not just one thing; it's a collective to where the whole family is moving into other areas, but we're doing it together, kind of one umbrella, Jackson Inc.
Yeah. I'm waiting for it, man. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the project. I've been, you know what I mean. Y'all really make some real good music, man. And that video, that video was dope, man. It almost had me in tears almost in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that
I can watch the last part. You know,
man.
We gave them like the pictures and the videos and stuff like that, but like it's still fresh with me, you know.
Right.
And like the tribute to their mom at the end, and I just scored the string part, you know, like at the end of the record and everything.
Yeah.
But like I still can't watch the end, you know. It's kind of hard for me. You know?
I get it. I get it. Mr. Andrew, like, we can talk all day. There's a lot more that we got want to get into, but we got to shut down here. So don't give me too much more to do, but you know what I mean. So, but we appreciate you, sir.
Thank you,
know
guys.
What I'm saying?
I mean, this is wonderful what you guys have going here. Shout out to y'all, and shout out to Crown. You guys doing amazing work, man. And then you're very good at what you do. Like you know the questions to ask. You know, so like.
And we don't write questions down.
No.
We just had like
it's an organic flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the best one.
Yeah.
Right? You know. So loved it, man. Appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming through, man. Honored and like for real, like
no doubt.
The honor's all mine. It really is. Yeah.
Until next time, y'all continue with that executive mindset,
and most definitely keep it presidential.
Salute.
Arrivederci. Bow.
It's okay that you're scared. We don't got nothing figured out here. It's like, where do we go? How do we grow? It's like, how do we know?